12-4. Seattle beat Tampa 10-9. The Angels were 7-6 winners over Kansas City. Boston defeated the Yankees 7-2. Ray Canaveri, USA Radio Network Sports.
You're listening to Out of Time Radio. You're listening to Out of Time Radio.
Our Out of Time theme music is written, performed, and recorded by Elliot Hendry. The Out of Time theme song is on Elliot's CD called Time to Heal. The CD includes Elliot's humorous, politically and spiritually relevant song, Who Would Jesus Bomb? Order Elliot's CD now from our Out of Time Radio website or call toll-free 1-877-624-4331. Get this great CD for only $12.95 and we'll pay shipping and handling. Thank you.
Black helicopters got you down? Fearful of government-spawned tornadoes? Wonder what those jet contrails are all about? Well, have I got a place for you. Hidden in the basement of 115-year-old Spencer's Corner is the Hot Springs Brauhaus, a place to hide and ease your wayward mind. Voted the best foreign restaurant in the state by the Arkansas Times 7 years running, the Hot Springs Brauhaus features the finest in German beer, schnapps, and food. Chef Norbert Sparea's award-winning recipes have pleased thousands for the past 10 years. The Hot Springs Brauhaus, Hot Springs, Arkansas. Dial 501-624-7866 for reservations or information. The Hot Springs Brauhaus. For a restaurant.
Everybody to Aliens in the News. I'm Sherry Schreiner. Listener call-in line 877-624-4331. Then I got an email, Yahoo. Do the aliens feed off of our emotions? Have you heard of something called Loosh? And yes, I have heard about it, and talk about it here for a minute. I'm not an expert on this. I mean, from what I've got is secondhand information from what somebody from the UK told me. And what I've heard is that the aliens do feed off, they call it life energy, and they relate it to plasma in our blood. But what it is Loosh is something that we create as humans. We create an energy, and they feed off of this energy. They feed off of our emotions. And it's almost similar to the same way Satanists do. And there's really not a big difference between aliens and Satanists because both factions, both groups are loyal to Lucifer. And so they do things a little bit differently, and then they do a lot of things that are the same. Where Satanists feed off the emotions of fear, and that's why they like to torture and horrify their victims before they kill them, because they like that fear energy right before they die. They get a high off of that. I don't know what they get off of that, but they feed off of the fear emotions. Aliens feed off of any kind of emotions that humans have. What they especially like is to feed off the energy, the positive energy that good people produce. And so they're opposite from what the Satanists are. You know, the Satanists like to feed off of negative energy. The aliens like to feed off of positive. And the one thing that humans have that they can't pinpoint and recreate in their own creations and their own races is adrenaline. The adrenaline factor that humans can produce is something that they can't reproduce. They can't recreate that. And they also can't recreate a being with a soul. And so there's two areas there that just totally mystify the aliens, and they'll never be able to duplicate the soul, because it was the Lord who breathed into Adam, and man became a living soul, and so they can't reproduce his breath. You know, and that's what it all comes down to. It's so simple, but they have to make everything harder than it is, and I guess it, you know, just keeps them coming back and using humans as guinea pigs and trying to produce their own and create their own races over and over and over again. And so that's what they do, is that loosh is an energy. Some humans produce a lot of humans that do things out of selfless love for the Lord, or they're just good people and they produce this positive energy. They'll plant UFOs above your home and just stay there and just feed off of your emotions. That's what they survive off of. I mean, that's all I can tell you about it. That's all I know about it. You know, and they're attracted to humans that just produce this kind of energy. It's called loosh. And they target them, and they feed off of them. They feed off their emotions. And like I said, on the other hand, you have the Satanists that do the same thing, but they feed off of negative emotions. They feed off of pain and torture. And, of course, that's where Satan gets his power. You know, Satan gets power off of the suffering of humans. And that's why hell is such a suffering and miserable place, because he gets his power. Listener calling on line 877-624-4331. Give me a call, folks. About 20 minutes left of the show. You're making me talk the whole time, and then I'll be hearing from you during the week. Well, I tried to call in and it was ringing, or it was busy, and I don't know what's going on with the phone lines, but just keep trying, because, you know, yeah, we do get hassled and we get haggled, and it's par for the course. But just keep trying to call in. Another thing I want to talk about is the difference between the two factions. They're fighting for control of the New World Order. And it's one thing I talk about all the time on the website at thewatcherfiles.com. I talk about the reptilians and the lizard factions and the draconians. And they're a very hostile race. You know, the lizard race itself is very hostile. They're hostile. And the draconians are the ones, the dragons are the ones above the lizards. And of course we have the greys, the tall greys, and the small greys that are you know, they have to answer to the reptilians. Everything's in a chain of command. They have their own chain of command structure. At the bottom of the totem pole you have the small greys, then you have the tall greys, then you have the reptilians, then you have the Mothmen, and then you have the draconians. And that's how their rank structure works. That's the Enki branch of the aliens. Now the Eldo faction of the aliens are all of the humanoid races. And with all of the humanoid races, that's where a lot of the confusion comes in. People say the Telosians are a nice humanoid race, or the Nordics are a nice race, the Pleiadians. And then you've just the ones that are annexed that work with Satan's race, you know. And these are the Omegans. And they are humanoid looking in appearance. They look angelic. But they're also with the Draconian faction. So we have, you know, the humanoids in both factions, not just, you know, one faction. And that's why, you know, there's so much deception and deceit about who is what and where is what. And, you know, hats off to you if you can get it all straightened out on what star systems, who belongs where. You know, I have it on my site, and I have a list here I was going to go through. Maybe I'll start that today and get into it next week on who was what and where. But you got to realize that Lucifer is in control of the first and second heavens. You know, he's the boss. And he controls both factions, the Enlil and the Enki. Even though he's ugly as a dragon, he can shapeshift as a human. He can shapeshift into an Anak. Also called Anakim. You know him as the Anunnaki. You know him as the Nephilim, the Illuminati.